Greetings, friends, followers, and those in between. Welcome to the inaugural episode of my brand new series, Review of You. Those of you with the fine powers of astute deductions would have already figured out that the premise of my show involves me analyzing and critiquing various reviews from a wide range of individuals. Now, as I've said that, a declaration of war has been declared, with the defenders chanting in unison, "This is a complete ripoff of A. Salieri! 2. How dare you copy one of the most entertaining, original, and witty reviewers on the internet? Death to the plagiarist! Death to the plagiarist! If you'd put down your arms long enough to avoid me putting up the obligatory flame shield, allow me to explain myself. I am not denying that this isn't an original concept. In fact, I myself am a massive fan of A. Salieri 2's work. His Reviewing a Reviewer series was actually the inspiration to start me making my own series of reviews. While many people disagree with some of Ace's opinions regarding popular reviewers, it's only natural for that to happen. We can't all agree on the same thing after all. So go check out some of his stuff. It's highly underrated in my eyes, and it's certainly well worth a watch if you're interested in video game reviewers. When comparing both of our work, the biggest difference between this series and RAR is that Asa mainly focuses on reviewers that the majority of his audience are already familiar with and are popular online, for better or for worse. I'm trying to give attention to reviewers who don't share that limelight and might benefit from some constructive criticism in order to improve their work, whether it be small issues or problems that completely detract from their review. We are all unique in our own way, but we can always learn to improve from our mistakes. Speaking of unique, let's cut the jibber-jabber and focus on our first reviewer, Alfred the Absurd. Back in March of this year, Alfred made his reviewing debut in the form of Achieving Absurdity, his video game review series in which he, unsurprisingly, talks about video games. With that said, the originality of this must be put into question. The modern reviewing culture is desperately starving for new things, with concepts like angry reviews and top 10 lists being the most unoriginal concepts under the YouTube sun. Alfred has attempted to be unique, and he has certainly succeeded. But why is that? And how did he go about doing it? To start off, the first thing you'll notice about his show, aside from the catchy theme tune, is Alfred's appearance. Now tell me, what immediately comes to mind when you see this?
Let's review a game!
To me at least, I see the early beginnings of Santa Claus as an inspiring entertainer to amuse the hearts and minds of all the boys and girls in the land, while dressing for an interview to get an acting role to advertise blue-tinted spectacles. Logical? No. Conceivable? Perhaps. Absurd? Absolutely. Despite his odd appearance, Alfred's screen presence is similar to that of my gaming lifestyle. Completely random and spontaneous. He's just so full of energy and excitement to the point where it's absolutely impossible not to have some sort of expression on your face, whether it be laughter or just sheer confusion. You really get an impression that Alfred is just having so much fun working on this, and I love that about his videos. Seeing someone enjoying the work they do really helps put a positive impression on the person as a whole. Props to you, Alfred! Now, onto the subject at hand. Alfred's reviewing style. If you go into Alfred's videos expecting a detailed analysis of each game, and then giving a solid opinion at the end, then you should check elsewhere. To an extent, these are not reviews. Rather, they are comedy videos about certain aspects of a video game. There are opinions in there, mind you. They are just overshadowed by the jokes that take up the majority of each episode. I can understand why Alfred sees these as reviews, but will these videos ever convince anyone to purchase any game he covers? Doubtful. Alfred is an entertainer, through and through, but adding the word review to his videos is kind of a stretch. Now this doesn't detract from his show, but it certainly will confuse those looking for a solid opinion on a certain game, regardless of how entertaining it turns out to be. Speaking of entertaining, Alfred's humor is, let's say it's interesting.
Alright, brothers, we're going in! I'm gonna eat an Allen's cocktail pump dessert sandwich, and the word shrimp doesn't end with the letter cottage.
You know, this style of humor reminds me of a certain reviewer who has definitely gone downhill in recent forced cough. Unlike most people who use jokes that have absolutely nothing to do with the subject at hand, most, if not all of Alfred's jokes relate to his talking points. Take for instance this scene from episode 2, his review on Alone in the Dark.
From what I gathered from this game, if you do make the jump, an ambulance will appear out of nowhere. Now, when you don't make the jump, the ambulance teases you. and this is something I'm not for.
I'm dying. Bing! I'm saved! I guess someone didn't make their jump.
It doesn't stay on screen for too long, and has a quick, snappy conclusion that leaves the audience craving for more. Now, I can see people disliking this sketch style of comedy, but unlike most people on That Guy with the Extremely Defensive fanbase, these sketches aren't being made into idiotic, inane, badly written story arcs. They're just comedy sketches made to tell a joke, and like all jokes, there are ones that work, and ones that don't. But I'll get into that later. Funnily enough, it's not just bizarre humor that Alfred uses. I myself am a big fan of subtle, witty humor that feels like the person telling it isn't trying to pander to the lowest common denominator. Take this scene for example.
The game begins with you putting the disc in and closing the console, while you wait in anticipation.
The reason this joke works so well is because it's making fun of something that we take for granted, and playing it like we've never seen it before. This is the kind of humor I'm trying to replicate in my own videos. Very well done, my friend. Finally, Alfred also uses visual humor for some of the more action-packed scenes. Since the majority of them are rather subtle, they take you by surprise and leave an instant impression on you as a result. With all of this humor in tow, mixing them all together makes for some truly masterful moments.
You can create a lot of objects, including this useless one, which is a flare and a bottle and a Molotov with no liquid. I can find a use for this.
I wish I had a light.
Would you like a light from Alfie?
Oh God!
Unfortunately, there are dark shadows behind this humorous review show. Wait, didn't I say that this wasn't really a review show, but like a comedy show? While the humor is done well, it might be considered too random at times, to the point of utter confusion, which sort of derails the video. However, since this is the whole gimmick of his show, I wouldn't take it away, otherwise the originality would be completely lost. Speaking of humor, there are certain jokes in his show which go on for far too long, and detract from the scene as a whole. A perfect example of this can be seen in Alfred's Call of Duty 4 review. Alfred talks about the gunners in an airplane being quite morbid at times, but the sketch he uses to make fun of this fact overstays its welcome and fails to be truly humorous, which is a shame. While Alfred's writing is mostly strong, the presentation of the show is all over the place. In the first episode, a continuity error can be seen when he's putting the game into the console.
Let's put the game in!
If you didn't catch it, in this shot, we can clearly see that Alfred is wearing his hat, but in the next shot, "What's this? No hat? This is the worst review I've ever had the displeasure to see!" It's a small gripe, but some of the more eagle-eyed viewers will put this into question. For some of the more visual jokes, Alfred uses photo editing programs to get his effects done, and these can look rather sketchy at times, detracting from the joke slightly. For future videos, I would recommend fine-tuning your photoshopping for less off-putting results. When Alfred uses visuals mixed with pre-recorded audio, they can lead to some bizarre results, and not in the good Alfred brand of bizarre. Take a look at this.
And what's with the hat? I mean, it's not Christmas, Alfred. My mother was right. I should have never moved in with you. You're always leaving forks in the bathtub. I just don't know what's wrong with you sometimes. You're just crazy.
You can tell by just looking at the clip that the visuals were obviously recorded first with audio dubbed in afterwards. What makes it worse is that this wasn't done in one take, much like the majority of my videos, since there's an obvious jump cut that can be seen here. For the future, I'd recommend improving your audio and visual mixing. Finally, and this might be considered nitpicking, Alfred's lighting is quite inconsistent. This can be fixed by white balancing the camera to the new environment. This can be done by holding a piece of white paper in front of a camera and then clicking the white balance button. Now I realize that not all cameras have this option and instead rely on auto white balancing, but judging by the quality of the camera, it looks pretty high tech, so it stands to reason that a manual white balance option should be present. Again, I'm nitpicking, but it has to be done from time to time. So that's Alfred the Absurd in a nutshell. He's certainly aiming for a rather niche audience, people who like oddball humor and are into video games. Can I see the show evolving over time? Oh heck yeah! Despite any criticism I've given, the sheer fact that Alfred isn't doing this for profit or fame, but rather to entertain an audience, I highly respect that notion, and I believe that more people should look up to your way of thinking, regardless of your interesting sense of humor.
Are you mad or what?
I don't often give scores in my reviews, but this is a rare case. So, I'm giving Alfred the Absurd a solid Santa hat out of melons.
The kitchen is yours!
That's all for now, my friends. If you liked this video for whatever reason, give that subscribe button a click. As much as I love reviewing other people's work, I also love to hear what you guys have to say, so let me know your thoughts down below. For those of you uninitiated, I've also got a review series called The True Story. Check those out if you're interested. Regardless, this is TrueStorySeamus saying ta-ta for now.